to understand your perspective on the challenges and successes of the AU in realizing the Pan-African dreams. Above all, we'd like to share your views on how tools, strategies, and way out to materialize and further African diaspora across the world. Thank you so much. I wish a fruitful presentation and discussion. አመሰግናለሁ።
I call upon Professor Tasso to moderate the session.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Let me first say, it is an honor to be here in the cradle of civilization. It is an honor to be here in the only African nation to have ever escaped, avoided, and successfully fought off colonization. When you look at the history of Pan-Africanism, Ethiopia favors prominently in that history. In fact, the connection between Ethiopia and Pan-Africanism is so strong that at one point in the scholarly world, Pan-Africanism was referred to as Ethiopianism. And the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, who in my humble opinion was the greatest of all the Pan-Africanists, who gave us the largest Pan-Africanist movement of all time, he often referred to Africa as Ethiopia, as did many of the founding fathers of Pan-Africanism. Many of us in the West look at the Haitian Revolution of 1791 that began on the island of Saint-Domingue by Toussaint L'Ouverture and completed by Jean-Jacques Dessalines. We see it as the beginning of the initiation of the Pan-Africanist movement. And we do that because the Haitian Revolution had a goal of empowering and financing revolutions against slavery all over the world. In fact, after Haiti earned its independence through war, Haiti tried to negotiate for the return of African people in the West enslaved. They wanted Haiti to become a haven. Henry Christophe, one of the leaders of Haiti, communicated with presidents of the United States and throughout Central and South America, asking for enslaved Africans to be set free and brought to Haiti. 40 years after the Haitian Revolution, we get the Nat Turner Revolution in Virginia, August the 21st of 1831. I happen to be born on August the 21st. And the Nat Turner War, some would argue, had Pan-Africanist implications, not only because it began on the 40th anniversary of the Haitian Revolution, but some say that many of the rebels who were with Prophet Nat Turner in Virginia were interested in escaping to Haiti. And so when we come into the era of American slavery, we find that some of the earliest voices for Pan-Africanism came from the enslaved of America. One of the first was a gentleman by the name of John Brown Russwurm from Jamaica, just like the Honorable Marcus Garvey, but often ignored, and we don't know why, because he was one of the first Africans in America to earn a college degree. Not only that, John Brown Russwurm edited and produced, along with Samuel Cornish, the first black newspaper in American history, Freedom's Journal, out of New York, 1828, I believe the year was. And John Brown Russwurm was one of the first Pan-Africanists to repatriate to Africa. He went to Liberia, and I believe he ended up becoming one of the dignitaries of Liberia. And when I went to Liberia a couple of years ago, I tried to visit his gravesite, but unfortunately, due to the burials of bodies as a result of the Liberian Civil War, which we hope to never happen again. They were not able to locate the grave. But after John Brown Rushworm, you have Henry Highland Garnett, one of the first black men to give a speech to the United States Congress, one of the leading pastors and abolitionists. He was also a Pan-Africanist who repatriated to Liberia and died shortly thereafter. We also add to that list a gentleman by the name of Alexander Crummell, one of the fathers of black social work in America, one of the fathers of the Episcopalian Church in the black community. And Alexander Crummell founded the first learning institution for black men in American history. He was a Pan-Africanist. He too went to Liberia and spent 20 years as a school principal and superintendent before returning to the United States to help recruit soldiers for the Civil War. So after John Brown Rushworm, after Henry Highland Garnett, we also have Major Dr. Martin Robinson Delaney. Martin Delaney is one of the epic Pan-Africanists. Not only was he one of the first black newspaper publishers in America, he was the first black person to be admitted to Harvard Medical School. Major Dr. Martin Robinson Delaney attended Harvard, but he was put out because his white classmates refused to go to school with a black man in the class. So although W.E.B. Du Bois would later on end up becoming the first black man to get a doctorate from Harvard, it should have been Martin Delaney in the 1800s. And it would have been Martin Delaney had he not been put out for reasons of white supremacy and racism. And one of my favorite Pan-Africanists of all time, Bishop Henry McNeil Turner, this Pan-Africanist of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. He was the first black man in America to say God was black. And he preached that God was black. And it was Bishop Turner who Pan-Africanized the African Methodist Episcopal Church. I believe he became the 9th bishop after Richard Allen of the AME. And for those of you who know anything about the African Methodist Episcopal Church, the AME is the first and the largest independent black Christian denomination in the modern world. Bishop Turner was one of the first black leaders in American history who had to travel full-time with security because he was hunted by the Ku Klux Klan. He was hunted by white vigilante organizations for his institution of the UNIA. It said, wherever the President General lives, that shall be the headquarters. But nonetheless, there was a split. Marcus Garvey continued to build and continued to organize. And he earned the ill repute of Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois. Although Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois was a Pan-Africanist, and his mentor was Alexander Crummell, who I mentioned earlier, who spent 20 years in Liberia as a principal and a superintendent. He is the Pan-Africanist who mentored W.E.B. Du Bois. But I want you to understand something. The disagreement between the Honorable Marcus Garvey and Dr. Du Bois was not ideological because they were both Pan-Africanists. It was egotistical. One thing you have to understand about W.E.B. Du Bois, he had to wait for Frederick Douglass, who I am related to by blood. Frederick Douglass is my 4 times great-grand cousin. He and my 4 times great-grandfather grew up together in Maryland in Tuckahoe Creek. And as you know, Frederick Douglass is considered arguably the greatest black leader in American history. So, Du Bois has to wait for Frederick Douglass to transition. And then he had his issues with Booker